Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting on a Budget. I want to show you guys how I create a cover for my little mixed media notebook or notepad that I'm going to be carrying in my purse whenever I go to any appointment or I travel. It's a very easy one. Oh, there's my little drawing from the other night. It's a very easy one to just slip into your purse. We did this live on our live video tutorial, and I'm sorry, I thought I was recording and I looked, and for some reason I wasn't, so I have to redo this again, but hopefully you guys aren't going to get too lost on me. Alright, so on top here you can see the little pH neutral PVA glue that I used to bind and seal my kettle stitch. Now you'll have to go see that tutorial. Now one tip that I do recommend you guys to do is, please, I use a black thread because I wanted a contrasting color. It could be any color because in all reality this is going to be covered and no one's going to see that. But you want something that's thick and strong. Upholstery thread is the best. It's very strong. And this one was a little bit, it was on the cheaper side of life, so it wasn't that great, but it did the job once I sealed it. So I did 2 coats of my PVA glue on top, and I used the spatula, as you guys will see in the tutorial, to smooth it out and kind of level it out. And then after I've left it dry, it is ready. It's kind of rubbery on the top, but it's ready now to attach to any book spine that I get together. Now, let me put that aside. This is the book spine. I have to glue this one down here because I noticed I didn't put any glue there. Shame on me. Here's the little book spine that I have put together. I'm going to be making one for my daughter because she likes to draw. So let me get that glued down first. I'll come back with my rubber eraser and pick up any gook that's left over. Alright, so here's the one that I came up for the one I'm going to do for my daughter. And it's very easy. I'm going to show you guys how I came up with this little concept. I used some of Seth Epter's stamps and a stencil that I picked up at his shop this week, and I also use wax paper, I use Mod Podge, I use tissue paper, and what else did I use? Oh, and gesso. So there's several little things that I've used on here, and I'll go through the process because this one's going to be a second little notebook for my daughter. Okay, the first thing that you're going to need, aside from this here, and I'm going to give you guys the measurements in case you guys didn't watch that video. It is 6 by 9. You're going to need 15 sheets of Canson or any watercolor paper pad. I picked up this one, or my husband did, at Walmart. It is the Canson watercolor 9 by 12. You can use the mixed media one as well. And you're going to cut 15 at 6 by 9, and you're going to score it at 4.5. So 6 by 9 scoring at 4.5, you need 15 because you have 15 total signatures here sewn in. And you'll have to catch up on that other video to see how I did that kettle stitch, but use upholstery thread. Now, once you have that done, then you're going to grab 2 pieces of chipboard. And these pieces of chipboard are 4 5/8 by 6 1/4. You need 2 pieces. And then you need one piece that's 1 inch by 6 1/4. You'll need a piece of cardstock. I prefer craft cardstock from Hobby Lobby because it's a thicker quality, it's a better quality, and it's a lot more durable for me, for my personal preference. I've tried the the Joann's and the Michaels. I don't care for it too much. So I like the Hobby Lobby for 2 reasons. 1, it's a better quality. 2, the price. Every other week it's at 50% the Paper Studio brand. So you get a bang for your buck, and I like that. Alright, so you're going to cut a piece of cardstock, craft cardstock, or any heavy 80-pound or 60-pound cardstock at 8 1/4 by 12. 8 1/4 by 12. So you need one piece that is 8 1/4 by 12. And then I like to do little grid lines, and Just makes it a lot easier when you're placing your chipboard so that you know where you're, it's like a little guide. So it just helps me place it better without having something that's wonky, and then all of a sudden, you know, you realize, oh man, you know, it's off a little, and I don't like wonky. So I like to measure. So what I did is a bleed, and I learned this from school. We have little bleeds. So you're going to have a bleed or a margin on top and bottom that's an inch. An inch on the top, an inch on the bottom. On the side, it's 6/8. Whoa, my English is horrible today. 6/8 on each side. So 1 inch, 1 inch, 6/8, 6/8 is the margins around. And that way, it'll fit right perfectly snugged in there with a gusset that is the size of the Tim Holtz ruler, because that's what I always use to kind of butt it up and flush and get it all nice and evened out. So you're going to need your Tim Holtz ruler, a brayer, pair of scissors, score tape, your little bone folder. I'm using vintage photos from Tim Holtz. You will be needing some Stays-On or black ink, anything like that. I'm going to use some Versamark, some embossing powder. Now the ones that I'm using is from Seth Epter's, and this is the Bake Texture and also the Bake Texture Patina Oxide. So I'm using those two. I'm sorry, Vintage Beeswax and Patina Oxide. I'm also going to use some of his stamps that I had grabbed from his store, so you'll have to check out his store. I use a variation of those. I will use some gesso, and I kind of did like that. I got this from Hobby Lobby, and I did like it, so it worked out great. So gesso, Fabri-Tac, because for me, I find that it's better. It won't warp, and I just found that it's a lot better. And have your little rubbery eraser handy. I have some beeswax, but you can also use some shaving from a tea light candle. I have an iron on because I'm going to be ironing on my beeswax. And what else? Oh, and for my stencils, I'm using one that I purchased from Seth. And let's see if I find it on my desk. And it's this one here. I don't know what it's called. Let's see what it's called. Laser Cut. I know I picked it up from his store. Doesn't have a name. It's Seth Epter's variation of different stencils. I don't know, but this is it right here. Okay, and Seth sells it. So you'll have to check out his shop as well. I'm going to use some wax paper. And I think that's about it. If something else comes to mind, I will let you guys know as I'm working on it. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do, you're going to apply or glue down your pieces. And once those pieces are glued down, you're going to use your score tape. I don't know if I mentioned that because I'm a little wacky. It's late. But I have a trip, and I'm trying to get this video done and get my schoolwork done so I can get some stuff packed for my trip and get things ready for the kids here. Alright, so I'm going to put some pressure down. It makes good contact. Move my ruler. I just like to sandwich that ruler in. I get more Fabri-Tac. Alright, clean that up. Might be seeing the top of my head, so if you see my top of my head and some grays, sorry about that, but my feet were hurting, I had to sit down. Alright, that looks about right. Alright, so let's get the brayer. I like to hold it in place so it's not shifting. See that? Went kind of crazy there. Not sure why that did that. I want to shift it before it finally glues down. You want to get that end right. Alright. Let's hold that down. That's why I like to hold it. I forgot. I got a little carried away there. Alright, let's move along. Let's get our Scor tape. And see, where are you? Right there. I just go in between that line. I don't go past it because that's going to be cut out anyway. And then you're going to put a top of there. I'm just going to go straight across just to make this really quick. Normally I'll just cut right in between those little gaps because that's tape that's going to waste, but I guess a 1/4 inch of a tape is not that bad, right? Stop being stingy, May. Alright. I haven't done mixed media in such a long time. It's like trying to play catch up now. Alright, we're going to do the sides, same thing. In between those little grid lines. And I'll go through and get the bone folder in. Yeah, so it's been a while since I've done mixed media, so I'm excited to be able to get back into it and do a couple little projects here and there. Hopefully I can pick up with Seth's new online course. I can pick up some techniques. Alright. Get that really nice and burnished, and now let's trim out these little squares. I like doing it this way because if you do it this way, you always get one side that's a little wonky, and I just don't like that. I like precision. I like things to be precise, and I don't know, maybe it's just me being OCD about stuff, but I just rather do it this way. It's like, you know, when you're covering up a box, it just makes it better this way, and I just like it. Just like it. Alright. Then I'm taking and mitering just a slight bit right there. Oops. On each little corner you're doing that. Doesn't have to be like bam right at your face when you're mitering those corners. Alright. Let's grab all that mess. And let's get this all nice and burnished. Use your bone folder and burnish down on it. This kind of helps a little with the burnishing and trying to get things right. Okay, so now we're going to remove our tape. I'm just going to go and remove all the bottom pieces on the same thing on the opposite side. Just kind of take half of this here and then pull it out. Start in the middle, work your way out. And then pull on that. And then take the tip of the silicone bone folder. I don't suggest you use this tip because that tip will tear in and you have to be very careful. I like this flat edge. You can just carefully go right in there and score it nicely right in there. And I just take it and fold it right in, just slightly, and just kind of score it, help it out a little, get into that gusset. Just makes it nicer. Okay, do the same thing on the sides. Let's burnish that better. And you just kind of carefully peel it off. Okay. Your trash away. I need to get a little trash bin for my desk. Alright, so there's that. Easy peasy, right? Okay. So again, we're just going to help get those little corners, everything nice and burnished. And then you're left with this. You can leave it like that if you want. If you don't want to, decorate your notepad, that's fine. It'll go right in there. Use a mat cover, and my mat cover, it is 6 by 10 1/4, and it is scored at 4 1/2 and at 5 5/8. Again, 6 by 10 1/4, scored at 4 1/2, and then at 5 5/8. I've already scored it. I've already done the distressing around the edges with Tim Holtz Vintage Photos. I'm not going to add this yet because we're going to do several things on here, and then I'm going to flip some of that stuff to the inside, so I don't want to use that yet. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. Alright, so let's start. I got some Mod Podge. Here I already poured it in because I was down to the last bit of my barrel. It's down to the nitty gritty, and so my paintbrush starts to kind of scrape at the bottom, so I just kind of poured it in there. I use a 2-ply. I've already used half. Let's see, where's my... Probably have to get up and do this part because it just makes it a lot easier than sitting down. Now I know I had it here. Okay. So it's a 2-ply. I cut the other part for this journal cover, and you can use a tape to remove it. When I cut it, just made it a little bit easier. You might want to read your packaging. It'll tell you how many plies it has. Now this was gifted to me, so I had to kind of figure out, okay, how many plies does this have? So I kind of figured after trial and error that, and I mean trial and error because we practiced on this before I even came up with my little cover there. Right there. So this was gifted to me. It had 2 plies. If it gets a little bit trickier, just take a piece of tape and it's easy to lift up. Since I had cut it in half, it kind of made it a little bit easy for me. Or cut it to measurement, actually. Alright. You can save that other part or not. Alright, so it's pretty. It's got some scripts there. And I ran out, believe it or not, I ran out of wax paper, so I didn't have too much to cover my surface here. So we're using this grungy mat. It's going to get beat up more. Alright, so we got our Mod Podge. We have a little paintbrush, and I'm just doing it carefully on each side, and I'm going to hold it down. I found it's easier this way than trying to do it like to glue down the whole thing and then place down your napkin. And I cut the napkin so that I have at least a 1/2 inch on each side on all the margins. I'm going to do the spine as well right there. So you want to make sure you cut your napkin a little bit bigger, side and top and bottom and the sides, than your area that you're working with, and just rub it gently. Don't go really crazy. Go gentle, because it's not, it will rip. So be very, very gentle. It's like, you know, you're massaging a baby's bottom, and just do very, very gentle massage, okay? Hoping this is recording because I see that my camera has stopped. I need to get a new camera. Let's stop right here until it catches up, because I don't want to move forward further. So I apologize. My camera was acting up, and I thought I was recording and looked up and it was doing its craziness. I need to get a new camera, but not right now. So we're gonna do the other book cover, and again, use your Mod Podge and get a good generous amount. Now again, I don't know if you guys saw in the other part, and I'll see it when I go into save the videos into Movie Maker, whether or not it recorded. But I said once you get to this point, you want to make sure that when you're placing down your napkin, you're massaging it nice. You're doing a soft strokes on it. You're not going really crazy on it and tearing up your napkin. Go gentle. In other words, go very gentle. Very, very gentle, and it helps remove some of those little, especially that crease where that fold was. it just helps kind of remove that. So right there is a crease, and I'm just rubbing my finger very gently so I'm not tearing into my napkin, okay? And that way you remove some of the creases, and once you're down, see I have a nice little, I have my margins, I call them bleeds all around. That's going to be folded in the inside so we can trim off some extras here that we have overhanging or not. I'm just going to fold it over because it's not going to be so noticeable because I have some other stuff coming in. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's miter these corners. Hold on before I get ahead of myself. Just and you really want to let it dry before you do too much to it because you really don't want to break. It's so delicate, it's so thin, you don't want to break or tear, not break, tear your napkin paper. Alright, so again I'm going to put a coat on my book cover here and go gently working it in. Gotta work that in gently. Don't be rough. Pat it nicely. Be nice to it, okay? Do the other side. It's when you gotta put your little delicate gloves on, you know, your gentleness, and just play nicely. Pat it nicely. So thin that you don't want to tear it. That's the key. You don't want to tear it, especially after you've worked on it, because that was my biggest challenge was, okay, May, you got some man hands. You got to be gentle. Give it some tender, loving pats, not some like manly hand pats. Okay. Okay, pat it in, pat it in. All right. Okay. So now we have it. It looks like that. You can leave it like that. I'm sure it doesn't, you know, it won't hurt it. But if you are going to leave it like this, seal it with some Mod Podge so that it doesn't tear up. So, see here, I have a little bit of an air bubble. So we need to fix that problem. I'm going to use mine carefully. And you can take a little bit of a needle and kind of pierce a little hole in there. I'm going to take a little pen, release some of the air. It's not going to be so noticeable only because, and I'm only saying this because I got other mediums going in there, you know what I mean? So, alright, so I just put a little piercing in there to release that little bit of that air. Okay. Again, just be gentle. Gentle. Alright, now I'm just going to take, and again, gently take another coat of this. Now this is where I'm going to get my wax paper. Let me get my wax paper. Again, you're going to get the wax paper that I have. I did a tutorial on this, and I coffee dyed it, and after I coffee dyed it, I baked it, and it released all the goodies on it. So again, this has got to be with margins that are bigger than your surface. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to go ahead and cover this gently like I did before. and I'm patting it because I don't want to tear up my napkin after all that hard work. So be very gentle. I'm putting plenty in here just to make sure I'm covering it up. I'm going to go pat it in. And use your brayer. Just again, even though the napkin's underneath, just don't be rough, okay? And then you're going to let this dry, and then you're going to come back, and then that's where you're going to get your tea light shavings or your beeswax, and we're going to create a sealing, a waxy seal on this, okay? Get your edges, especially your edges. You want to make sure your edges are taken care of so it's not peeling off. Alright, while this is drying up, get your iron prepped up and ready to go so that when you come back, you can apply your wax. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this and we'll be back. Okay, so we're back. It's dried. You want to make sure you gently fold your spine and your covers to make sure that everything's working and functionable. As you can see, I've already glued in the inside. Now, what we're going to do is, here's a tea light candle. If you don't have beeswax, you can take tea light candle. You can shave some off. Let's see, let's use my little spatula. You can shave some off. And use that. Or you can use your beeswax, whatever you guys want to use. I'm going to use I just did this to show you guys how you can just use your tea lights. This one's been sitting here so it's got a little bit soft here on me. Alright, so you can do it this way. Let me mix it over here. Make sure you don't tear up. My wax paper underneath is kind of protecting that napkin, so alright, I'm going to go ahead now, grab some of these little beeswax pellets. Pour some in there. If you don't want to use, and I recommend an old iron. My iron is specifically for crafting. I don't have it for anything else. This iron is a cheap one that I think I didn't even pay more than 10 bucks on it. But you don't want to use an expensive iron, that's for sure. So I got it at Walmart, and I want to say it was less than $10. But you can go to the Goodwill or any thrift store and get an old, you know, or retire your, if you're someone that likes to iron, you're looking at retiring one of your irons, use that and buy a new one for yourself, a better one. Alright, so we're going to put that back, and I have a piece of wax paper left over from when I do my coffee dyeing. I'm just going to take and you'll see it as it's melting. You see it, how it's coming through. And then you're going to let that dry up. I just say that. You'll let it dry up, or cool down, not dry up. Let it cool down. And then once it's cooled down, you're going to come back in with your Mod Podge and kind of seal that stuff in so that you can get this scraped in. Move into the next step. So let's let this cool down, harden up, and once it hardened up, you're going to get some nice little textures in here that are pretty darn cool. I'm just going to scrape some of this seepage here on the side. A little. If you didn't get good coverage, go ahead and like I see a little corner here that could have needed a little bit of assistance. Get your stuff out and go at it again. Doesn't take, once your iron, it's good to go. Doesn't take long to get it up and functioning. Alright, so we'll let that cool off. Oh, I see. I'm just going to go right in there. I don't like doing it that way. Okay. Got my baby wipe over here to clean that off a little. A little wet baby wipe here, just to kind of clean it off a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to let that cool down, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to seal it with some Mod Podge, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so it's now cooled off, and I'm ready to seal it with some Mod Podge. And I'm just going to go in there. Again, I don't want to go too crazy on being rough with this. I like to give it random little strokes here and there, just so that when I go back in with my distress ink, it'll pick up those brush strokes. Go in there and seal that in. Seal the fate of this. And you want to get the edges, because remember it seeps, some of the wax gets on the edges, so you want to make sure you get your edges as well. So we're going to go in and get the edges. And again, brush strokes don't have to be up and down, side to side. Crazy brush strokes is good because it just picks up more textures, and I like that. So random strokes here and there. Just seal this deal in. Seal it up. Make sure you get those little edges on the side where it may have seeped the wax. Oops. I'm not doing a good job of protecting I don't even know why I'm doing that, guys. I'm just, you know, when you grow up poor, you try to protect your stuff as much as you can because you know you're not going to have a replacement in a long time. So I think that's why I'm trying, even though that mat underneath wasn't that expensive, but it was only $14, but still, you grow up poor and you just protect, you're quick at taking care of yourself and protecting it, making sure it lasts you a long time. And I am notorious for that. Alright, I'm going to let this now dry up, and then we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so here is what it looks like once we've sealed it with the Mod Podge, and I've done the sealing in the back as well, or in the inside as well. So now the next thing we're going to do is I have these little stamps that I picked up from Seth Epter's online store, and I'm going to figure out what I want there. I have my gesso, and this is one that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I paid $5 because it was 50% off the Master's Touch, and actually it was not a bad gesso. It's pretty thick, so I was pretty happy and stoked about that, because sometimes, you know, you don't get good gesso as you would think you would. Alright, so I have my block going. I found this little piece of corrugated paper that I had here from my stash. I put some chalk paint previously on it. What I was thinking about doing is placing that here, and then sealing it with some beeswax. Before I place it here, I'm going to seal it with some beeswax and then place it on here once it's been sealed, because I thought that gave it a nice little character look there. But we'll see. We shall see. I'm going to leave it there to the side. If I decide to do that, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take some beeswax, my wax paper, and iron it on, then seal it with a Mod Podge so that I can place it on here, because I don't want that wax to get all over the place. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do. We're going to take our gesso and we're going to apply just a tad bit. We're not going to put too much, just a couple little strokes here and there. Doesn't have to be like super duper perfect. Let's see. Never comes out the same as you had done previously. I'm going to put some of this because we're sealing this with more seals. Seals upon seals. We're actually going to be sealing it with embossing. So yeah, put more in there. Alright. That's good. Alright, so then I'm going to heat it up just quick. Just real quick. like that it gave it a little crackle look. I don't know if that's because of the Mod Podge and the beeswax underneath, but it almost gave it a nice little crackle look without me attempting crackle. But I like that. Now here's another idea. Before you put, if you want to put a like chunky charm, you want to pierce an eyelet through and then attach your book spine in there. Okay, but you got to do that before you do anything else, and I probably will be doing that, so just so you guys know, that's what I plan on doing. Alright, so I'm just going to take some of these, and I got my stays on. I think I'm done with the gesso for now. Close that up, get it out of the way. And let's see. This is one I really like because it says tell your story. So I like that. You guys know I like circles. I love this one. This one gave it a really nice look. So we're going to go with these here. That's what I'm going to go with. Random little circles that he's made. He's got some really neat ones. And this one here has create, so I like that because it's going to be an art journal. I love the randomness of these lines and my circles, and tell your story. So I'm just gonna, there's not going to be a rhyme or reason. I do know that I wanted this. I'm just going to tear it before like so. Gonna go there. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on where I'm stamping. So that's going to be like a masking kind of a deal. They're rubber and they cling on to this little block Young Sue gifted me. Just randomly. You know what? Let's go over here. There we go. I love this one. This is my favorite right now. I'm loving it. It's like, that is so cool. These random little lines. It comes up with the neatest little things. So we're going to go probably around here because I loved it so much. I got to do it a couple times. You're going to lift up a little because of my Mod Podge was not fully dried. I'm trying to rush through this. Okay, so I'm going to go over on this corner. See, that one was dried there. And then let's go on the other. I just kind of like this one. I really do. So I'm going to go maybe over here, like so. Just a random line. Okay. Then we're going to go with, I love this one. This is the Create. It has Create on it. And you can go crazy with this one. And I'm just going randomly here and there, just to give it that speckle look. I love the speckle look of it. And it does have the word create, but I'm going for that little specks of dots of stuff. That's what I'm going for. And that goes there. Let's get the word create this time around. So you at home, make sure everything is fully dry. That is very, 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 very super duper important. As you can see, I'm lifting up some of the I'm lifting up some of the gesso. Right there, it's not fully dried. I like the speckles. Okay. Then we're going to go with this one. And I'm just doing random stamping, nothing in particular, just, you know. Remember, that one's going to be glued down. Okay. Do I want it here? I think that'll be good. Okay, that's good. All right. Clean those up. I was going to put some circles, but I think we're fine. I think we're fine. We're not going to put circles in. Okay, let this gesso finish drying up. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and get the beeswax. And I do have these little acetate butterflies that Young Sue gifted me as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Mod Podge those in like that. I'm going to Mod Podge it to my paper just like that, and then I'm going to take the beeswax and put some beeswax down and take my wax paper and melt it, and then hopefully it won't melt my acetate. Let's hope, because we're experimenting. And then if it seals, we'll seal it with Mod Podge and bring it back, and it'll go right there. I think it'll look great. So we'll be back. Okay, so see, I have glued down my butterflies. I have taken the wax and I've sandwiched it between the wax paper and I've ironed it on. I'm going to let it cool off, and then I am going to take the Mod Podge and seal all that in. Okay? Okay, so I have my little stencil that I purchased with Seth. And I'm going to use my Chocator squeegee and the Chocator chalk paint or chalk paste, and this is the Couture teal. So it's the Chocator paste and it's Couture teal. I like the color pop that it gave, so I'm just gonna, it's supposed to look like yogurt, and you want that consistency. So I'm just going to take a little bit in my squeegee here and just give it a couple random little specks of colors here and there. A little bit of color there. We're going to go with Seek up here. This time around I did it backward. I did it up on the other corner here, on the other one. I like these little squeegees for the stencils. That one's a little bit, I lifted up a little bit rough, but that's okay. I'm going to go with these lines here. Should have cut them out so that I don't have these big. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut this because they're so big. And although it's good to have them on one sheet, sometimes when you're trying to do small little areas, you don't want all that stencil, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to cut it. I want these little lines, that's why. And I'm not, because it is like a mixed meat, I'm not concerned of whether or not I get every little aspect of the stencil in. If the letters don't pull up, the letters don't pull up. You know, it's not supposed to be like super duper, ooper, let's see. Let's use another one. I like, let's do this one, Story. Again, I'm not going in for the perfected, is that not the style? Like as you can see, I'm missing some parts of the letters there, and it's not urgently like, oh my god, I didn't get it right. You know, it's mixed media. Splatter. I like that splatter. Okay. And I know that's going to be right there, so we're going to go with the Y. I just want the, doesn't matter, like the Y. The Y in those random lines. Again, the Y is not like the perfect. Okay. So then I'm going to run this down to the sink and we'll be back. Okay, so I have taken a scrap piece of Tim Holtz paper and I tore off the bottom. This is an entire piece. And what I did is I tore off where it said parcel, flipped it around, and glued it down here. I distressed it, and then I took the beeswax, You can see there's beeswax on it because it's kind of oily and shiny. And then I'm going to take, again, my Mod Podge. And the reason I'm doing my Mod Podge is because the Mod Podge will seal that beeswax. So I'm just going to seal it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it as a layer behind forgot what I was doing. Enough. I'm going to put it behind this little piece here. Now these are the Tim Holtz acetate butterflies. I don't think I mentioned it, the transparent wings. And that was gifted to me by Young Sue. I believe Joann's online is about the only place that has it. So I'm going to let this dry, and then this will go down here with the word parcel kind of peering through there. And then I'm going to put it over here like so. Now I'm not going to emboss this part here. This is not going to be embossed, but what will be embossed is this part of the album. Now I am going to get a scrap piece of paper, and we'll be back. So I have a scrap piece of paper down, and I'm going to take, ooh, I was about to, wrong one. I don't know what the heck I was, it's a good thing I looked. That would not have been good. So I'm going to take my embossing Versamark, and I'm just going to go in and give it another seal. This is almost like another seal to it, to seal it down and seal the deal, almost like. So I'm going to go in and hoping I get it all nice and juicy. I know this this pad is a little bit old, but I got it from a D-stash from somebody, and I think it needs to be refilled. Alright. I'm just trying to go around and get really good in there, because I'm going to go in with the vintage, Seth's vintage beeswax. Let me mix that in because I like to mix it. I'm going to put plenty of it. Then I'll shake it up. Pick it up. You guys know the rule. You guys know how to emboss. I don't think you need to see me how to do this. But I'm going to do a complete layer of the beeswax, of the vintage beeswax. And then I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit here and there the patina oxide where I want some of this to go. But first I'm going to get this one down and kind of shake it around here a little bit. Get the areas that I may have missed. And then I'm just going to take my heat gun and go to town with it. Okay. And before I do that, I'm going to clean up this mess. So I like to start it up with the Tim Holtz heat gun, because this one doesn't move all that stuff. It's not flying all over the place. And once I get it kind of baked in there just a tad bit, where I can go in with the faster heat gun because I'm impatient, then I go in. So pretty much when you start seeing it kind of glisten, And you want to make sure you cover the whole thing. That's really important. You want to cover the whole thing because, again, we're sealing all that stuff. The napkin, the wax, the paste, the stamps, all that is being in here sealed with this embossing from Seth. So you want to make sure you get good seepage. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of the patina before that does anything else. And let me mix this up because it has a little bit of copper in here and I want to pick up some of that color. So I'm just going to go in and hit it just in a couple random spots. Make a little line here. Okay. And then I'm going to go back in with a little bit of Tim. Oh, let me get a little bit of green on this one just to kind of balance everything out. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Alright, let's wipe that up. Okay, now I'm going to go in with Tim just to kind of not get everything flying, and I'm going to just heat it up for just a couple seconds because I am so impatient, and Tim Holtz, I'm sorry, I love you, but it takes too long. So I'm just going to kind of get it so that nothing is flying as bad as the big one. Kind of get it situated in its place. And then I'm going to go in and zam it, or not zam it, what do you call it? Nuke it. Zap it. Blast it with the bigger heat gun. Because if not, see, even with Tim, it still flies out. But not as bad. So I'm just going to zap it. Blast it. Because see all that mess on my desk? I'm going to have to gather some of that so we're not wasting. Alright, let's zap it. And sometimes I like to get really close to give it a burn effect on it. It gives it more texture. I'm going to be really cautious on this one because I do have multi-layers of wax and all that. So I'm just going to be really cautious not to get too close because I really don't want to ruin the effects of the wax and, you know, the napkin and all the other multiple layers we have going on here. Okay. Alright, I'm going to keep working on here. I don't think you guys need to see all this. I'm going to keep working and we'll be back. Okay, so I'm just taking some washi tape that Young Sue gifted me, and I think it's the Stephanie Bernard Stamp of Life collection. and I have started to glue some of that down. I took some Mod Podge because sometimes this stuff, and especially since I have a lot of stuff going on here, I really want to make sure that kind of sticks. And I just randomly tore it off with my fingers, and I'm going in with the Mod Podge there. And isn't that beautiful the way it looks? I think it looks great. So we're going to put that just like so. Like that. Oh my god, that looks so beautiful. Oh, looks gorgeous. Let's kind of flatten that out a little, and I think I'm going to go in with Fabri-Tac. Hopefully this will work. With the wax underneath and all the other stuff, so I'm going to make sure I put plenty of it. If it doesn't, then we learn not to use, right? That's just a learning experience for all of us. Okay, and I wanted some of that stuff to show. It says hello on the washi, so I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm going to probably put some pressure on this, and then work around that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Distress ink, because y'all know I like to use my Distress ink, especially on top of Mod Podge. I love the effect of Distress ink on top of Mod Podge. So I am going to let this dry up, put a little bit of pressure, and then I'm going to come back with the Distress ink and kind of distress it a little, and then we're going to attach the book onto our book cover. So here we have it. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. I think that is so beautiful. Alright, so now I'm just going to go right in, just kind of hit it here and there. Directly with the Distress ink, right on it. And then what I like to do is bake it right in, so I take the heat gun and kind of get it to work right into the grunginess of all this grunginess. Ooh. Gotta get those butterflies so they don't look so new. I love the grunginess. Look. Okay. Good. Now I'm just gonna heat it one more time, just to bake all that in, kind of marinate it all up. One thing I do want to say is while you're heating it, make sure you bend like so that your spine gets that shape, just like that. Especially when you just you're working on that embossing and you're first putting in that first layer. Just make sure you kind of fold it right where it needs to be folded, so it gets baked right in the spine the way it's supposed to. Otherwise it'll crack. Okay, if it cracks, just take your heat gun and kind of melt it back into shape. But that's the spine. Now you can, at this point, you can take an eyelet, so that you can put like a chunky charm or something hanging from the side of your journal, your art journal. Make sure I got everything going the way I want it. I love it. Oh my god, guys, that is so beautiful. And then you have this little piece here that before you, if you're going to do your chunky charm, you need to make sure you cut your 6 by 10 1/4, scoring it at 4 1/2 and scoring it again at 5 5/8. Distress your edges, and that's going to go sandwiched right in there as a matting. And I'm just going to go right with my Fabri Tack, almost hitting the home run on this. You know, you think that it's going to be a quick tutorial, right? But it never, I don't know, it never ends up being such as quick as I want it. I try to keep it down, but you know, and I try to do the voiceover and the speeding, but guys, that takes forever. And it takes the fun. For me, it just takes the fun out, and then I just don't want to sit there and edit. I just don't. If I have to sit there and edit a video, it's just not fun. Prefer not to edit. And all that voiceover is just too much editing for me. Alright, let's get that in. Just drop it right where you need it. Drop it right where you need it. Move it in. Get your bone folder, burnish. And you may need to put a little bit of pressure, because remember, there is some waxing on it. The glue sometimes doesn't want to attach itself to the waxing, but we did put some Mod Podge underneath all that, to you know, on top of all that, so we could seal things in. Just make sure you burnish those edges. That's really important, because we got so many layers of stuff going on. And when in doubt, put layers or tons of books on top to put some weight on it and get into the way you want it. Alright. Get it nice and especially around those creases. You want to make sure you want to go gentle, so you're not breaking your paper after all your hard work, you know. Even if you have man hands like me, you can do it. Okay, so there we go. See right here, it's lifting a little. Just put a little bit of elbow grease in there. It's because we have wax and Mod Podge, and you know, the Fabri Tack has to try to make that bond with something that it's not familiar with, right? So anything will come in with gel medium, and that should do the job. So we'll see, because this is the first time I use Fabri Tack on top of all this stuff. I typically want to use like a gel medium, but I didn't this time. I used Fabri Tack. I'm hoping the Fabri Tack does its job, and if it doesn't, then we'll come back in and do some. It did on the other one, but but we'll see. I got more stuff going on here. So see, I keep seeing it lift up right there. I might not like the Mod Podge. Alright. So there might be chances like right around there I see it where it's wanting to constantly pop up. I might have to get the gel medium. If you have the problem, my advice to you is use gel medium if you can instead of the Fabri-Tac. It looks like the Fabri-Tac is just not wanting to acknowledge Mod Podge or wax, but we'll see. Alright, I'm going to let it dry. If I see anything that needs to be corrected, I'll go in. But if you're going to do the ooh, look at my hands, nice. If you're going to attach a chunky charm, this is the time to do it before you add your spine to, or your book to the spine. So go ahead and add that on before you glue that down, because otherwise you won't be able to do it. Once this is in, it's done. It is completely done. You're not going to be able to get back in there, but you want to go up a little bit higher. Okay, so we'll be back, and I'm going to let that dry, and we'll be back, and we're going to attach this. You'll need some rubber bands. Okay, so the brad's in place, and I added a second brad so that I could add this little elastic mechanism for closure. Now I went down about 3 1/8 and centered it, and I didn't have the Tim Holtz elastic cord. So what I ended up, I went to Joann's on Monday to see if I could find that, but I couldn't find it. So, because he has that elastic cord with the barb at the end, but I couldn't find it. So I did find this, and I used my coupon. And so what I did is I inserted it through the eyelet, and I've glued down the 2 little legs so that when I attach this like so and apply some good pressure, this could wrap around my little journal, and it should give it nice closure. So the next thing that we're going to do is I have a heavy duty rubber band here, and I'll probably have to find another one, but I'm going to apply the glue, and I'm using a pH neutral PVA glue. It's a heavy duty glue, and it's made for bookbinding, guys, so you got to make sure you get the right stuff. Even though it looks like Elmer's glue or Mod Podge, it is not. It is not that. Okay, so we're gonna go in here and apply a good generous amount of this stuff in. It's very runny, but when it dries like rubber. Okay, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna hit this in too. Now, this is going to go right smack into your paper in that spine, and got to make that good contact. Especially since we have that elastic in there, you know. So you want to make sure you get good contact in there. Press down where you need to press. See, like that. If it needs to seep in, let it seep. Let it do its thing, okay? But we want to make sure it does what it needs to do. So let that sit. I'm going to go get some more rubber band. Let that sit, let it dry, and then your junk, not junk, I was about to say junk journal. Your art journal is ready to be used as your traveling art journal. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. This is just something that I'm creating for myself, or when I'm sitting at appointments or traveling on the road, that I could just pop this in my purse and work on it wherever I am. Instead of taking something really big and bulky, I can pop this in my purse and work from it. And I also have the one that I'm going to do with the ring, because I also like the ring just because I can attach things to it, and if I need to make it bulky, because I tend to do that, I can. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Hit the like button and share, because sharing is caring. Till next time, guys. Bye bye. Be safe.